James chapter 1 verse 17 says, "Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights." Welcome to my farmhouse and my channel. My name is Kelsey, and today we are going to be talking about being good stewards of the beautiful gifts God has given us. With my family being sick all of last week, I have this renewed appreciation for one, feeling good. My husband and I always talk about when we're sick, how much we take for granted feeling good, just feeling nothing, being able to do our day-to-day tasks without pain and without struggling and feeling sick and tired. And so we always take our health for granted. My husband and I always talk about that. And so being sick this last week, we both have this renewed appreciation for feeling healthy. And beyond that, I always get this renewed inspiration and reminder of how much I love homemaking, how much I enjoy cooking from scratch and caring for my family and being able to do my day-to-day tasks. And there are many days, don't get me wrong, that I complain about it, many days that I am tired, I'm exhausted of doing the same things over and over, cleaning up the same messes, cleaning up messes in general. But when that's taken away from you, when you have a few days or even a week like I had where it was just so hard to care for my children, so hard to care for my home. I got behind in so many things and I wasn't able to physically or emotionally care for my house. Whenever that is taken away from me, I get such a renewed appreciation for it and being able to do it day in and day out. And so I just have this new creativity and this love of caring for my home. And so I thought it would be a great time to talk about being good stewards of the beautiful gifts that God has given us in our home, in our lives, because many times we take those things for granted. Those of you who mentioned making a video with a sick time routine or how to get through being sick, I honestly don't have any tips. I do the bare minimum that I have to do. I feed my family, I care for my children, but there's nothing exciting that I do. There's no tips that I have. Just survive, because when you are so sick where you literally feel like you physically can't do anything, just don't. Just try and sleep, care for your kids, throw in a frozen pizza, do what you need to do to get through. This morning, I just made some apple waffles. I will have the recipe to those linked down below. And I decided to make some homemade beeswax wraps. I bought some on Amazon and I absolutely loved them. So I thought, I will just make some homemade ones. I'm not going to lie, I don't like them as much. When I looked on Amazon, I saw that they actually use a plant-based wax. And so it's a lot stickier. These still work all the same with wrapping up food. They work fine, but I do find that they are stiffer. And the other beeswax paper, which I will link down below, is easy to fold. And so when I fold the ends to cover my bread, I can use the warmth of my fingers to heat up that wax and have the ends of the fabric stick together so that it seals easier. Whereas the beeswax is harder and so it doesn't stick to itself necessarily. So you just have to fold it a little bit tighter and nicer. The biggest way that my husband and I have talked about being good stewards of the things that God has given us is just taking care of the things that we have instead of constantly adding new or replacing what we have. And so we have made a mission to kind of pause our projects until we take care of and clean up what we already have and the projects that are already ongoing. We decided to move rock and try to clean up the outside starting this past spring. It's taken us a little bit. We finally finished, and now we have decided that we're going to take the time and really clean it up. We have a lot of cords out, we have trash out, we have things that need to just be put away. And so instead of constantly adding things to our to-do list, we need to take care of the things that God has already entrusted us with, has already blessed us with. And another really good thing when you do that, when you go through the things that you already have and you take care of them, you start to see the things that you don't need, especially if you start to organize them, go through them, and then you could recognize the things that might bless somebody else, something that you aren't using that is still in good condition that you can gift to someone else, that you can donate, and just allow that blessing that God gave you to bless someone else. Along these same lines, you can also see the things that you can fix up, the things that you can take the time to maybe glue or paint, sew back together, mend, whatever it may be, instead of just tossing it aside, throwing it in a drawer, buying new, or just getting rid of it. Be a good steward of it. Take care of it. Take the time to try to use it so that you are not wasting the resource that God has given you already. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 10 says, "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace." It's important to remember that not all gifts that God gives us are tangible, are physical items. Yes, of course, He blesses us with many of those, but He also blesses us with many spiritual gifts as well. And those include wisdom, faith, discernment, teaching, administration, service, mercy, hospitality, and encouragement. A good place to start would be to really think about, really pray about, and maybe just write down some of those spiritual gifts that God has given you and how you are using them. And if you're not using them currently, how you can use them, because that is how we serve one another. It's not always by physical gifts or donation. It is by using our time and our talents that we have from above, using the fruits of the Spirit, because the fruit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Sorry, I had to sing it again. I did that in a previous video. I'm sorry. So we have both these spiritual gifts and the fruits of the Spirit that God is entrusting us with. He is giving them to us as our responsibility to be a good steward with them, to care for them, to share our resources, to love our neighbor as ourselves. God has given you this special task, this special responsibility. Are you caring for what He has given you? So let's go over some examples. Maybe you are financially well off. Maybe you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom. Maybe you have leadership skills. You're a good teacher. You're good at evangelizing, talking to people. What is the gift? Whether it is a spiritual gift, the natural gift, are you artistic? None of these skills, none of these talents are purposeless. God created you exactly with those sort of abilities and interests and passions for a reason, so that He could use you to do His will. Now, we're not doing Him any good, and I'm talking to myself as I'm saying this. When we don't utilize those gifts and when we don't utilize them for Him, when we are not a good steward of the beautiful gifts, whether that would be our physical gifts, our spiritual gifts, when we are not using those to glorify Him. I read a beautiful quote that said, "Better to lose count while naming your blessings than to lose your blessings to counting your troubles." So switching gears a little bit, going specifically to motherhood, specifically to homemaking, I feel like this is where we fall. We fall into the list of overwhelming demands from our children, maybe from your husband, from family members, whoever you're caring for. Maybe you have a list of demands from your work. And then we also have the list of demands from our home. And we really start to focus on our troubles, the things that are weighing on us, the things that we feel like we have to get done, things that should get done, maybe the pressures from social media or other moms that you are friends with, other people that you see at work. No matter what it is, we start to count our troubles, our struggles, things that make us angry, especially all of the things that we see on social media. And so let us take some time to just focus on counting our blessings instead, because we have many of those. Even if you are in dark days struggling with suffering, you still have blessings. And all you might see and feel right now is just pain and sorrow. But I encourage you to still find the blessings, see the blessings, and write them down. Write down the beautiful gifts that God has given you, because when we can visually see and really think about and contemplate all that we have, we start to gain a greater appreciation and realize how much we do have. Even if it feels like we have little, even if it feels like you are in a place that you don't want to be in, whether it is physically or emotionally. So what can we do right now, you and me, to be good stewards of the beautiful gifts that God has given us? The best place to start is by looking around, seeing what you have physically around you, and then falling on your knees and going into prayer. Conversation with God is the best place to find the beautiful gifts He has stored inside of you.